Wang, and I'm here to present to you Musée du Louvre. The Louvre is the first of the world's 4 museums. It covers a total of 1,980,000 square meters, and the Louvre was first built in 1204 as a fortress that stores jewelry and documents by Philip Augustus. And Francis I made it into a royal palace hosting art that he bought from commissioners and collectors in 1546. However, it's no longer a royal residence after Louis XIV moved the royal family to the Palace of Versailles in 1682, and it's been officially made into a museum by the National Assembly in France in 1793. Here I introduce the Galerie d'Apollon, which translates to the Gallery of Apollo. Louis XIV became king in 1661, and he decided to create his own gallery. Louis XIV attributed himself the role of Apollo, who is the sun god in Greek and Roman mythology, so his gallery was entirely built with metal and gilded with gold. However, we know that he was forced to leave from the palace because he was moving the royal residence to Versailles, that the gallery had to be completed 200 years later in 1850 by Eugene Delacroix. The gallery also contains over 800 pieces of jewelry, which can be shown here. Note that the Renaissance period was from the 1400s to the 1700s. This piece of artwork has been created as one of the late Renaissance paintings, and I forgot to tell the title. This artwork is called Apollo Slaying Serpent Python, and some of the signature traits, we can see it has a comparatively more realistic background with the dark clouds contrasting with the golden lights that surround Apollo, which also emphasizes his existence. Although there's not a clear horizon line, we can see that if you connect the diagonals, Apollo is also located in the center, and he's holding this bow. If you connect this arrow, extend the line here, you can see that there is a wound on Serpent Python, which shows Renaissance artists' great attention to detail. Some references to classics. So we know Serpent Python is the son of Earth goddess Gaia, so he inherits her powers, which made him very destructive and hard to fight for Apollo. We can also see some perspectives here. We have people piling over each other. We also have shading. We have a light source that is not consistent, that you can see shading somewhere else. And we can also see that the humans are not necessarily as significantly smaller compared to Apollo, that this shows an attention to realism. Second painting, this has been commonly referred to Diana de Versailles, which is also basically translates to Artemis the Huntress. This sculpture is 200 centimeters tall, 139 centimeters wide, and 103 centimeters wide. The sculptor is Barthélemy Prieur in 1602, originally commissioned by Chateau des Tuileries, also an artwork of the late Renaissance. It arrived at the museum in 1798, and it has to be redone by Lange in 1808. This sculpture is one of the classical Renaissance art pieces. So we know that Renaissance people consider the golden ratio as the most beautiful body proportions that a human can have. The golden ratio expects people to have the ratio of the distance from the top of the head to the belly button to the distance from the belly button to the feet as square root 5 minus 1 over 2, which is approximately 0.618 to 1. So adhering to this ratio, we can see that the goddess has really long legs. And people also thought that they appreciated the beauty of muscles. So the goddess has been portrayed with very strong, thick arms with muscles and strong muscles on the leg that help her shoot the bow. We can see a shown of perspective on her robe, that this robe has been carved very realistically. We can also see that people portrayed her facial expression really well. It's very realistic, and they probably actually observed people doing this, having this pose by holding the antenna of the doe, and the hand has also been carved meticulously. Last painting, this is Le Christ en Croix entre Sainte Madeleine, La Vierge Saint Jean et Saint Bernardo degli Oberti. So the actual date of the creation date is unknown. It's been created between the 1400s and 1500s, and the artist is Andrea di Gusto. It's 121 centimeters tall and 79 centimeters wide. It's been created it's painted gold on the background on wood. It's been first owned by Stat, later purchased by Henry IV, placed in the Napoleon Museum in Paris in 1862, and it's been retrieved to this museum in 1976. So obviously, analyzing the content, we see Jesus on a crucifix with Saint Mary here, and John and Jean and Bernardo. Why is this painting Renaissance? Although the background is in gold, we can see clear representation of perspective, shade, and there's not a significant size difference between these people. Because the painting is done in the early Renaissance ages, we can also see there's halos that are drawn, which is probably not as realistic. From the wrinkles of the people's robes, and we can see there's nails over Jesus' hand. We can see perspective and foreshortening. In other words, close items are larger than the far items. Compared to the sculptures here that we have seen, the facial expressions are not as three-dimensional, but there are roughly the rough proportions of the organs and their facial expressions are right, and they're more realistic. All of these point towards early Renaissance art. Here's some visitor information. It's open every day from 9 to 6, except for opens Friday from 9 to 9:45, and it's closed on Tuesdays. Significant feature that you can probably visit if you go to this museum is the Tuileries Garden that's been made from a royal residence to a public park here. And here is my bibliography. Thank you for watching.